So I really want to share my personal story with Lyme with all of you that are watching, but it's a really long story. So in order for this to work with this video, I'm going to be doing them in parts. So this first part is basically going to be about high school and what I dealt with during high school that has to do with Lyme disease. And then the video tomorrow will be the next part, and so on and so forth until the story's over. And I wanted to do it this way just to get details in, because I think that it's important for people to understand that Lyme is so difficult to diagnose because of these details. So bear with me, and thanks for watching. In 2004, I was a freshman in high school, and I started getting really bad stomach pains and was really nauseous all the time. And we couldn't figure out why, and it lasted for quite a while. I went and saw a doctor, and he, did some regular tests. Everything came back normal. So he sent me to a gastroenterologist who did a lot of different tests. He did, the barium swallow, where you drink all this really nasty stuff, and they have this monitor on your stomach to watch how your stomach digests things and what goes on basically in your stomach. They also did a barium swallow test where I drank different barium consistencies while they watched on an x-ray type thing how my esophagus worked, because they thought maybe I was having problems swallowing. I also did the different tests where they mix certain special dye into food, and then you eat that, and then for the next hour you just have to lay there while this machine watches your stomach. I did a lot of other tests as well. Again, everything came back negative. According to these tests, I was perfectly healthy and there was nothing wrong with my stomach. Except that every time that I ate, I would get really bad stomach pains and would be really nauseous for hours afterwards. So we didn't give up. We continued to see this gastroenterologist, and he was a really sweet doctor. He didn't give up on me, and he stuck with me for a couple of years. They did an endoscopy where they have a camera that's on a tube, and they stick it down your throat, down into your stomach, and the camera lets the doctor see what your stomach looks like to make sure there aren't any ulcers or anything like that, and to make sure it's the right color. I was asleep for this. I don't remember it. The only thing I remember is being in the hospital beforehand, like during prep, being really cold, and then laying on the table and the doctor telling me he was putting an IV in my arm, and there were a lot of doctors, and they were talking about Napoleon Dynamite because the movie had just come out or something. And then the doctor was like, "Okay, your arm might feel a little warm for a couple minutes, but then you're gonna fall asleep." And as soon as he said that, my arm just like lit on fire. But then that was it. That's all I remember. And then I woke up, in recovering. I mean, my throat was itchy and sore because they had just had a tube down it. But we waited for the results, and within the next week, we got the results back, and everything came back normal. My stomach was bright pink, and I got pictures of it. It's pretty cool. I still have the pictures, but anytime I show people, they get really grossed out because it's the inside of my stomach. But anyway, a year after my first endoscopy, I went back and had a second endoscopy done because they wanted to make sure that if they did miss like a tiny ulcer the first time, that it didn't get any bigger during the year. So they just wanted to make sure. And they also, this time, attached a tiny little probe inside my stomach, and I had to carry a monitor with me on my hip for 24 or 48 hours that measured the pH levels of my stomach to make sure that it was normal. But this monitor I had to wear all the time, and I couldn't do anything to damage it because it was really expensive. But I was really active, and I was playing softball at the time, and I was a starter, and I didn't want to miss any games. So what I had to do was, when I was in the dugout, I had it with me, but anytime I had to go on the field, my mom would come over and take the little monitor from me, and I'd go play softball, you know, out in the field, and then as soon as I came back in the dugout, I had to take the monitor and put it near my stomach so that it could register the information. We won that game, just so you know. That's a memorable game for me, just because of the monitor that I had. Anyway, but again, this second endoscopy showed that there was nothing wrong. They diagnosed me with dyspepsia. And dyspepsia is basically just a general term for someone with either a really sensitive stomach or someone with just generalized stomach problems that have no apparent cause. And with that doctor, I continued to see him and try out different medications. I tried out a ton of different medications to try and find one that helped my stomach and my nausea. And after probably 30 different medications, we finally found one that helped. I still dealt with stomach pain and nausea on a day-to-day basis, but it was definitely not as bad as it had been, and it was much more manageable. And I went through high school with it, and it was not a big deal. Most people, I would say 95% of people in my life had no idea that, you know, I had dyspepsia. It did show up sometimes, though. I remember being at like different church events and having to go lie down because my stomach hurt so bad and missing out on things. But I was still really active. I mean, I played sports all throughout high school. Sports was my most favorite thing. I loved playing softball. I loved playing volleyball. And I tried my hand at tennis. Wasn't so great at it, but it was still a lot of fun. Definitely some great memories. I traveled. I, you know, went on different missions trips with my church, and had a lot of fun. Went on different vacations with my friends. So I was still really active and able to participate in normal life. And I just accepted that I would have to live with this dyspepsia. Little did I know that it was something much more and that it was going to get a lot worse. And it didn't actually get worse until I moved away to college in 2007. And that's what tomorrow's video is going to be about, my time at Point Loma. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I know I say that in a lot of these videos, but I really do appreciate it. And I hope that if you have come across this video randomly and you have Lyme disease, I hope that this has given you something to relate to. That's pretty much my big goal with this, is just to get information out there and to let people know that if you have a chronic illness and you have yet to be diagnosed, don't give up, because a diagnosis is coming. I had to wait 7 years, but I finally got the diagnosis I was waiting for, and I've started treatment. So, thanks for watching, you guys.